Hello, everyone. I'm Jean-Claude BeyondMystic, and welcome to this deep woo-woo episode entitled Life is But a Dream with the amazing Catherine Edwards. You can find her work at catherineedwards.life and also here on YouTube at Catherine Edwards. Catherine, welcome back to the show.
Hi. Yes, I can't believe how quickly these 2 weeks are going. How was your weekend?
It was too short. Thank you. Yeah, Sarah and I took 2 days off to try to connect and disconnect from everything else, connect with each other, and just spend a little bit of time here relaxing. And it was just too short. I woke up this morning in the hotel room. I was like, oh man, I wish I had another day or two to just like veg out. But I'm looking at the schedule like, oh no, I have like 4 shows to do today. I have to go back. So how's your weekend, Catherine?
It was really mixed, really up and down, really. I think the same as most people, most of our listeners that I'm seeing are actually feeling as well. Had some really good bits and some not quite so good bits. We've had lots of controversy in the UK with new regulations being brought out again and back to the face nappies and really pushing the agenda and lockdowns and everything. And you're just like, oh, for F off. Quite frankly, I've had enough now. This is no longer a joke.
Well, we'll get into that too, because I saw this new strain come out the other day while I was on vacation, and I was like, oh, come on. You know how like this one is worse than the other one, and then this one is really, really worse, and now it's like super duper duper worse this time around. I'm like, oh, enough of this already. And I was looking at everyone on it was Saturday night, and I was trying to gauge people on this whole thing, and everybody's like, what, who cares? Nobody's listening. It's fascinating.
Does anyone actually ask their doctor, like, please explain to me how you measure the different variants? Because we all know they can't, so we all know it's made up. And the fact that it's it's an acronym of moronic just sums it up really anyway, and it really is. And I think, I had quite a few conversations with Janine this weekend, and I think, it sums it up nicely. Enough is enough. I think now we've got to really kick ass. I think now we've got to really up the ante and really kick ass, because I'm afraid my Mrs. Nice Guy has gone. And now I'm really ready to kick ass, because I've had an awful weekend. I mean, without giving away any personal details, but one of my best friends, a member of her family, committed suicide. And these things just bring it home, just the real human cost, not only the ones that are walking themselves into the slaughterhouse, but the fact that these other people are suffering so much with the isolation, with the loneliness, with the lack of hope, with the no end in sight. It's really real, and it's just absolutely awful. Yeah, we know the PCR is not a test. I think everyone here watching it knows it's not a test. Quite right, Mickey. So I think it's hit me really hard this week, because some people are really suffering ridiculously, have been for a long while. But when you hear things like that, it's just tragic, and it's bad enough, isn't it, JC, when there's a reason for it, but when we know it's all completely manufactured and completely unnecessary and complete con, then I'm definitely, when you go through the cycle of emotions, I definitely hit the angry point this weekend.
I was there last week with you. Oh, maybe 2 weeks ago too. This weekend, not so much in terms of personal stuff like you, and my heart goes out to you. I mean, that's just horrible to deal with. I completely understand. And I'm sure some audience members are on the same page too. I did feel part depressed, I guess, on Thursday night or Friday night as this new strain came out. I'm just like, oh, come on, again with this. Like, are we actually winning this, or we're back to the same game? And then as I felt into it, I'm like, oh, no, that's just them absolutely desperate. They have to bring something up again. They have nothing else to do but do the same playbook, and nobody effing cares. So I'm like, wow, okay. But it was hard. It was hard. It was a hard weekend too. And you know what? Somebody in the chat is saying, hey, JC, I had a dream. You're in my dream. Who was that? Shauna. I had weird dreams all weekend, like weird ass dreams, like where I was, who I was with. It was just like weird. And that's why I looked tired too. It's like I was supposed to relax this weekend, but I couldn't sleep very well. And last night too, it was like the dreamscape was pretty weird. At any rate, Catherine, you and I have 2 shows today. Let's maybe remind the audience what you are setting up for us later today. I know it's not live, but explain to the audience what we're going to do later this
Later
afternoon
today.
also.
So I will get it up on YouTube, providing we watch what we talk about tomorrow morning. So I have got a lovely round table scheduled. So we've got Bryce from Esoteric Atlanta, Medina, who's one of your sort of regulars, as is Bryce. And then we've got Jean-Claude joining us girls for a round table just to have a really good chat with. I'll have my glass of wine ready for, you know, what are we feeling? Let's get this out in the open, because I think one of the most important things that I've been encouraging a lot of people to do is find someone to talk it through, because when you're bottling it all up, then the fear can really start to kick in. So it's really important to get it out. So when I went through all my stuff this weekend and heard the really bad news from my friend and things like that, it's really important to say, okay, let's dip into my toolkit. What have I got here that's going to make sure that I'm not staying in this sort of semi-depressive state, and acknowledge it, acknowledge what's going on, and then what am I going to do about it? So I did my usual, got out with my animals. I did loads of gardening this weekend. I even cleared my office up, which was long overdue. So I just turned that energy into something really constructive. But I'm really looking forward to our chat later, because I think it's going to be a really, really good one for everyone to see. I love the round tables because you get everyone's different perspectives. Everyone's got a different way of expressing themselves. So it's really, really constructive, I find, for people.
Yeah, I can't wait to have it. So I'm excited. Okay. So will you be posting that later today or maybe tomorrow?
I will
on your
post
channel?
that probably tomorrow morning, because it'll be very late by the time I finish. And then hopefully it will be on my YouTube channel. And I expect Bryce and Medina will put it on theirs too. Unless we talk about things that we're being naughty about and we shouldn't. And I have just set up a new Rumble channel. So I've got my BitChute that I've been using for a while, but a lot of people have wanted Rumble. So I've got a Rumble. If that happens, I always put a little introduction on YouTube and then put the links below. But the links to Rumble and BitChute are below all my videos on YouTube, so you can easily find them.
Okay, very good. Well, let's get into the topic for today. Wow, where do we start? Well, we took a few notes before the show. Let's start with the first one. Words have energy. Let's set that up for the audience and we'll start the conversation there.
I think what I have been noticing, and what quite a few other of my friends that I've been speaking to, well-known friends that people here will be listening to on YouTube, is what we're noticing is, because there's so much hitting people at the moment, you know, obviously it's ramped up in the land of the kangaroos really badly. UK have been hit hard. Loads of other countries have been hit hard. And what a lot of people, so for myself, I'm getting a lot of people emailing me or messaging me with either videos slagging off other truthers that are doing the rounds, or with so-and-so said this and they're talking rubbish, I don't believe it, and therefore I don't believe anything they've said. Sort of a lot of negative. Now, whereas I completely understand everyone needs to offload, which is why I love our roundtables and I love discussions, I think there's a lot of studies that show that when you commit something to writing it down, it gives it even more energy than when you're just vocalizing it. Right. And that's why when people talk about manifestations, or when you're working through any spiritual healing, it's really good to write things down. And so what I'm finding is, actually, the advice I'm giving back to people is saying, think twice before you write that down. Think twice before you send that email or that message or whatever. And can you work through those emotions, which is going to lead on to something else we're going to talk about? Can you work through them rather than just firing off from your first initial reaction, and think through it? Because if we're just putting all this down in writing, to me, we're feeding the dark side. We're feeding the negative. We're feeding what we don't want to happen, rather than acknowledging those feelings, working through them, and then putting our energy on something a little bit more constructive, which is actually going to raise the vibration. Because when I receive things like that, I'm like, what do you want me to do about it? You don't agree with what this person said. Well, you need to work through that or not listen to them.
Okay, hold on a second there. You're alluding to something, and I'm not sure the audience know what you're talking about. Let me just backtrack, and then I'll ask you a question about what you just said there. the words have energy, and you're right. When you do write them down, you are much closer to manifesting that energy than when it's in your thought. I had this amazing interview last year with Dr. Richard Allen Miller, and he was talking about how in secret societies, they understand that they are responsible for the thoughts they entertain, because they do in fact create reality, right? And so you can manifest the reality you want, but you can also manifest the reality that somebody else is programming for you, which is the conversation here we're having today. So that's interesting. But what he said about writing it down also, it's similar to because you're acting in physicality with those same words, you're pulling it even closer here into physicality. So what you're saying is absolutely true. And this is why a lot of these covens, these witches, even white witches, not just dark magicians, but they use the written word when they do their spells also. It's not just verbal, but written also adds that extra layer of punch, I guess, to their manifestation and to their spells. That's interesting. Now, you just mentioned something here. People are writing to you. Explain that to the amount that you want to explain it. People are emailing you because they're having some issues between different truthers who have different points of views, and they seem to be how do I say this? Oh, okay. Explain the energy that's coming towards you. Yes, they seem to be confused, but how is the energy being transferred to you in these emails? Explain that first, and then we'll go a little bit further.
Yeah, so I'm getting a lot of emails, a lot of messages from people that obviously need somewhere to offload. So they're sending me negative comments or things that they disagree with about other people that they've heard on YouTube or other channels, etc. I won't mention any names. And the thing is, I can see that they're venting their frustrations. But what really gets me is that they're asking questions and then sort of saying, well, what do you think? And a lot of these people that they're slagging off in the emails are my friends. And so I'll go back to them, the ones that I give the energy to respond, and sort of say, well, actually, I think this. And then they get cross because they don't like my answer. And I'm like, well, this is another issue. I'll round it all up into one because all the issues are linked. Is first of all, I would really encourage you to either talk to yourself, if you haven't got a friend you can talk it through, talk it out loud to yourself about what really is the issue. Because if someone said something that you disagree with, one, does it matter? Is it going to affect you? Because you don't need to agree with what they say. Even if it's one of your favorites, you don't need to agree with everything. Mm-hmm. Just because they've said it doesn't make it right. Just because you don't agree with it doesn't make you right. So think through it. Think rather than going straight into that reactive mode. But secondly, think how your message is going to be received. And a couple of weeks ago, we talked about this, about our approach when we're trying to warn people of the dangers of certain things and everything. And thinking, are we coming across in a condescending or a telling way, or, a know-it-all way, or a fear way? Are we spreading more fear in our message? Or are we actually genuinely wanting them to take on board something new? In which case, are we trying to see the world through their eyes and put it in a way that the receiver will receive it? Because communication isn't just me talking to you. Communication is me saying something and then ensuring that you've understood it. Mm-hmm. It's a two-way process. Mm-hmm. So what I'm seeing a lot of, and I've never seen this before, and all the while I've been doing these in my videos, is a lot of very fearful, very angry, very negative sort of messages. And they're not even about me, which is what's so funny. They're about other people that I might be friends with on YouTube and they might be listening to. And it's fascinating, really, because I can see that it's telling me that, unfortunately, the dark forces are doing a very good job in their fear mongering, because even though I'm sure the people writing the emails don't believe any of the mainstream narratives, I know they don't, the level of ramping up of the fear is getting for them because they haven't reacted like this sort of in the past. And there's nothing constructive that can come across as from a message like that. There's nothing constructive that I could do, because I'm not going to say I agree with you, because I don't. And I'm not going to feed that energy. So it's just a waste of your energy, where you could actually be pouring it into something a little bit more constructive, or questioning why you were triggered enough to write that in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a waste of energy for them, but it's also a waste of energy for you, because you have work to do here. Right? No, I totally understand. And maybe for me, I've had this issue early on. My show was set up from the beginning to bring people of all walks of life, but people with very, very different opinions. And so I hit this wall very early on my channel where people were saying, JC, come on, so-and-so was on your show. They said this and so said that. Which is it? And at first I kept responding the same thing. I said, well, both points of view are true and both points of view are false. It depends on your point of view. So don't ask me what I think. What do you think? And so I started responding like that to kind of train people into thinking, oh, wait a second. It's on me to figure this out. Yes, it's on you. It's not because so-and-so said this that I endorse it, or it's not because so-and-so said this that I don't endorse it. We're having a conversation and we're seeing where all of these pieces of the puzzle may fit. And when you write emails like that, especially you just mentioned fear, anger, I saw a lot of that in those emails. And also recently, maybe more, you're right, there is a bit of an uptick. But I've been dealing this for a long time because of the nature of my show. And it's not just, oh, so-and-so on another show said this and this, but mostly people on my show juxtaposed. At any rate, I was also at first kind of like, oh, well, do I spend time responding to this? Is it even worth my while? Like I read it, I understand where you're coming from, but that fear, where is that fear and anger coming from? I think that's the real conversation that you and I might have today and try to resonate with them, because if they don't figure that part out, whoever they listen to online won't make a difference at this point. They have to be in check and responsible for their own emotions here too, as well, and figure out why they're being triggered. And that has nothing to do with Catherine, has nothing to do with Jean-Claude. It's all of these past programs, past beliefs, and also the fear of letting go of what you might think is reality at this point in time. Catherine and I have said in the past that our reality is transitory, and so too is our opinion of the reality we're in, by nature of the reality being transitory. So you need to be flexible, like as Cliff High says, in the woo here, because it's sticky, it's mushy, it's soft, it's not something hard you can stand on. And for a lot of people, that's a new skill they're learning right now, and they tend to feel in the fear frequency. And of course, there's a lot of fear porn going on right now. So let me ask you then, in some of the responses that you've engaged, did it just go quiet, or did those people respond back to you? What was your experience there? Let's start there.
Most of them respond back, sort of justifying why they felt that, and often sort of apologizing. And I'm not looking for an apology, because I completely get the frustration. I 100% get that. So I'm not saying not to feel it at all. I think it's really important for people feel it and find some way of talking that through. I was just noticing, I was thinking, gosh, this is not moving us in the right direction. And one of my friends I was talking to today reminded me of, from last year, a brilliant Kayleigh McEnany quote, where basically she said, sort of on Livestream, is I can share information with you, but I can't understand it for you. You have to do that yourself. And I think this is the stage we're at, and all of us are at different stages with that, in multiple times throughout the day. And I think, you know, sometimes it's just really important to sort of sit with yourself a bit and just wait and take some time before responding. And I've been guilty of this loads of times. I mean, I tend to fly straight back with something, but I'm really, really learning that that's never a good idea. You know, it really isn't, because then you're responding from your raw emotion, which isn't necessarily constructive, and then you're going to react, you know, attract that back to you, because how you respond to someone is going to attract that back to you. So it's really fascinating. I think people do need to get this off their chest, but I think that we've all got to question our own level of understanding and question why people that we've previously respected might have a different point of view, and should we question that? Because we've talked about this right from the start. It's questioning everything and being attached to nothing, because we just don't know. There's so much we all just don't know. There's so much that it's probably in our best interest that we don't know, that to be vehemently disagreeing about one little point is just affecting you in a negative way, rather than sitting there and thinking, I wonder why this upsets me so much. I wonder why I'm so averse to this. What is it? Or do I just not want to listen to it and not waste any more of my time on it? That's equally fine. If it's really not resonating with you, then spend your time on something that is.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Well, let me bring up, you had this video with another controversial gentleman here a couple of days ago.
I love that video, yeah.
So folks, if you haven't seen this, and also let me bring that in the live stream here as the link also, because this will bring you to Catherine's Rumble, as she was just talking about there. And this is where she'll be posting perhaps this afternoon's interview as well, the roundtable, depending on the topics we go into. Okay, so now it's in the live stream. You guys will see it there. And I'll try to remember to pin it to the comments here right after the show as well. Yeah. We've had a weird couple of months, and I find that I'm encouraged nonetheless. Like, I agree with you. Sometimes this is like very, very nagging, because on top of this, you and I have to do the schedules. We have to talk to our other guests and respond to emails about our customer support for the products that we offer and stuff like that. And when we get into these emails, I'm just like, oh my God, what do I do? And so now I try to respond kind of like, maybe this will help with you as well. I force myself to smile before I write my response. So it brings me into that frequency of, okay, I'm not attached to the outcome. I'm in a good, positive mood. Here's what I think. And that whole question about, yes, both points of view are true and both points of view are false at the same time. I had this conversation with Penny Kelly, who's also been controversial on my show. She has different points of view than other viewers, but we can respect ourselves to have these conversations so that we can push that needle forward in our collective understanding. And so I continue to have her on. She's absolutely a fabulous guest. And she said something to me. She says, right now, JC, the discernment, the issue with a lot of people using discernment right now is that they're not used to holding in their field of view, in their consciousness, two opposing views for a very long time. And that's what's being called upon us, to be able to sit with those two opposing views for long enough to be uncomfortable, but for long enough to figure out which one feels better than the other one. Right now, most people have the reaction, well, this doesn't jive, I can't stand this. And they immediately get out of that discernment mode of really having to look at it because they can't resolve that difference. And just that's the big thing right now for people, is to be able to just sit back, relax, and take both views as both being positive, both being false at the same time, and give it enough time for kind of universe, for your body, for your energy to align with which one sits better with you. And that, like you just said, we can explain that to people, but we can't teach them that. They have to learn that process for themselves. What do you think right now is in our way? What, on top of the fear porn going on right now in the world, Catherine, what do you think is in the way for people to be able to sit with these opposing views for a longer time? Is it something to do with the energy? Is it the diet? Is it a mix of a bunch of things? Is it what I'm trying to get at is, why is it directed at you? Why is it directed at me? What's triggering them to direct that fear, that anger at us when we're just having the conversation just like everybody else? You and I are not setting ourselves up as, we know everything, here's your truth. No, we're having conversations with a bunch of people and we're trying to figure out the truth. That's what you've set up your show. That's how I've set up my show. What do you think is the energy pushing that? Is it an attack in a way? Is it a... I don't want to lead you into the answer. What do you feel is going on there? Really, just underneath the covers.
Yeah, it's so interesting, Jean-Claude, because actually the emails I've been getting at the moment, probably, let me touch wood really quickly, haven't been about me. They've been about other people that I've been talking to. And I just personally don't like that. So that's something I'm looking at is, for me, because I'm very loyal to my friends and very strongly, will defend my friends. Yeah. But I think it's quite interesting. I've had a lot of people throughout this process. Like I had a lovely chat with Mark Atwood, and that's also on my Rumble. A lot of people think that a lot of people have been off furlough and had a lot of extra time. But actually, most of the people I know, and I know it's very variable for people, but most of the people I know have been working throughout this experience. So they haven't had a lot of time. But the awakened people, a lot of them are still working. Mm-hmm. And they're trying to listen to shows like this and other shows and look at the latest news on Telegram. So suddenly there's a huge amount of information that they're trying to keep up with, to sort of feel like they're not missing out and have got the latest information. So I actually think it's really challenging for people at the moment, because a lot of people, perhaps a lot of the time, I mean, I think a lot of our listeners are people that are very into their own self-development. So they understand the benefits of meditation. They understand a lot of the other alternative healing modalities. But I'm wondering perhaps whether a lot of the time they would have spent on their own self-development over the last year, they've spent listening to other people. And I've definitely felt that. And I felt at times that I've been very out of balance with that, in terms of a lot of time I would have spent in meditation, for example, or just relaxing with my animals. I've been actually researching, because the message from every single person on the channels is do your own research, do your own research. But then, you know, if you're working, if you've got a family to look after, if you're trying to look after yourself, how much time have you got? So I think there's a lot of conflicting pressures on people at the moment. And I think it's really, really challenging for them. They want to form part of communities, because a lot of people in their immediate families and friendship groups or local communities, they haven't necessarily got people that are aligned with them. So they're reliant to going online. And we all know that actually, you know, using your mobile phone or your computer late at night will affect your sleep and things like that. So I do really sympathize with how to get that balance right is very challenging at the moment. And particularly as things are escalating all the time. I mean, throughout the year, there's never been a period where people have been able to sort of switch off and just get on with their own life, really.
Well, I think that's true. Right now, we're all overtaxed with everything. And especially if you're still working and you're having to deal with this huge information warfare that we're in, my heart goes out to you. I mean, it goes out to me and Catherine, because it's just like, it's hard for just us to be here and doing the show and holding all of this information, doing the research, as Catherine says, and then being able to parse that out in a responsible way, because that's always tricky for Catherine and I. Also, when we receive new data, we kind of have to figure out where it fits. There's the, oh, this is absolute crap, or this is a maybe, or this is a, oh, yes, absolutely yes. And, oh, this is in the woo, I have no idea, right? And all of those are okay, as long as we can explain that when we go through our process here of sharing information with you guys. Marie Delphine, I love that name. She says, both of you are such a powerhouse, helping so many navigate this storm. Thank you, appreciate that. And Alex says, so appreciate these conversations, JC. I appreciate that too, because that's the whole point. We're just trying to figure it out. We're just humans. We're doing this thing together right now. We're all attached to the same outcome, whether we want to or not, or realize it or not. We are actually, you are me and I am you, and all of this thing. And that's also one of the ways I try to read the emails, is that I figure, oh, maybe it's me at a certain point in my timeline asking me the question too. I try to answer it that way. But like you, I mean, well, I have family, I have issues, I have, like, you know, bills to pay, like normal 3D stuff that gets in the way sometimes. And maybe sometimes I'm not as polite, or maybe I'm a little bit terse in my email. Sometimes people tell me, you're a little bit terse, you hurt my feelings. I'm like, dude, I have 1,000 emails to respond to today. I don't have time to wear white gloves. You asked for the question, here's the answer, here you go. So I hope you guys can understand that, and Catherine's in the same spot.
Yeah, I think we're both like that. We're both quite straightforward, and I do try and respond. I mean, I'm quite behind this weekend, but you know, I do try and respond, because it's really important, and I do appreciate that people have taken the time. And also, I really appreciate that a lot of people haven't got other people that they can have these discussions with, and that is something I've been giving a lot of thought to, because we're really lucky. We've connected with some really amazing people, but it can be hard for some people to think, well, where do I start doing that? And certainly I must say, none of the people really, with one or two exceptions, are local that I'm having these conversations with, you know, so that's quite challenging. But I do think there's so much to celebrate in all of this, because we literally are questioning everything now, and we're much more aware of having the wool pulled over our eyes. I think most people on this channel, on either of our channels, I think, you know, they are really spotting and calling out bullshit so quickly now. And a lot of people are really stepping up, I've seen, doing their bit in terms of being a little bit more brave, them explaining it in their way, because you and I don't explain it in, you know, sometimes, I mean, I haven't succeeded with half of my family at all. Not luckily, not my immediate, you know, not my kids, but the rest. So I'm not professing to be any expert about how to sort of get people to look at things through a new pair of eyes. But I think once your bullshit meter is really on, you know, full charge, that is such a powerful weapon. And I think everyone on here has got that pretty good.
Yeah. Well, I like this conversation. Every time you and I get to this, we kind of don't know what we're going to talk about, but we're guided to have these conversations. I'm reading the chat here, and I think for the most part, everybody understands what we're getting at here too. So maybe by sharing this collectively, we can bring that out into the field and reach more people with that sentiment that right now we are in the woo. It's very difficult, and there's juxtaposed views. And again, there's a few people in the chat here saying, oh, there's the truth and then there's the not truth. Yeah, it's not that simple. It's just not that simple. There's way more there. And I think the more we can detach from those hard, you know, black and white lines, there is a lot of gray right now. We have to be able and more comfortable, at least for a period of time, to live in the gray right now. We're in this transition period. So hopefully that makes sense. But talking about these colors, what we're seeing too, and maybe you can share some of your experience, Catherine, is we're seeing people now show their true colors more and more. And it was funny, maybe 2 years ago, I started talking to different psychics and they were saying, oh, it's funny, this veil is dropping and all of these people who are wearing masks, pretending to be gurus and this and this and that will eventually fall because the energies are no longer supporting that fakery, those facades. You know, we're seeing that in government, but we're also seeing that now on a very personal level, not just in the truther community, but in our families, friends, and neighbors, and all that as well. Let's dive into that a little bit here, because for some people right now, this is a big part of their angry, their fear, their angst going on right now, because they thought they knew people around them and suddenly it's not the same people, and so they're wondering what the hell's going on. And not only is their reality crashing, that's happening to all of us, but the people who they thought were so and so are not in fact so and so. Let's dive into that a little bit. What's your experience lately?
Such a good point. And I think on every level, whether it's family, whether it's work colleagues, whether it's friends, whether it's you know, sort of people you're listening to, it's becoming so beautifully obvious now where people stand. So I was having a conversation with a family member this weekend, one of my dog walks. I said, it's really obvious now. Everyone, when you're taught about history, and there's a lot of controversy going around at the moment about, say, what did or didn't happen in the Second World War. But let's take a view. Let's say the enemy is persecuting a certain group of people, and some people are the type of people that will hide them in their house. And risk their own life to hide them in their house. And there's other people that absolutely won't. That's how I feel we're in at the moment. It's been blatantly clear who would hide me in their house and who wouldn't. And it's what I'm finding really fascinating is a lot of the ones who talk the loudest, I wouldn't trust at all now. I know they'd dog me in. And that goes for more public people, but also people on a local level. And I was listening to a really good report. There's this experiment. I can't remember what it's called, but I think most people will be familiar with it, where a group of scientists got a whole load of normal people, mixture of age groups, mixture of male and female. And they said that they were doing a test and that they had to, one group were asking questions and the other group were given electric shocks if they didn't get the answer right. And they were testing to see how far they would turn up the electric shock right to a lethal level if a person in authority told them to do it.
I remember
that. Famous experiment, can't remember the name. And when they went into that experiment, they expected a few percentage of people, and more men than women, would actually prepare to turn the electricity right up so that they would be potentially giving the recipient a lethal dose. Turned out it was about 90%. And it is what I'm seeing. Unfortunately, it's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing that most people are, when it comes to it, are not going to stand up and be counted. And I'm afraid that's whether you're saying, well, I haven't got the nerve to say anything about it, or I'm just doing this because it's easier to comply. I'm putting you in that category now, because the sad reality is we're not getting a second chance. People are still moaning an awful lot about people in authority doing this to us. And I don't care who it is, whether it's Max Egan, David Icke, whoever it might be, are saying it stops the moment we say enough. And what I'm seeing is there's a lot of people talking the talk and not walking the talk, walking the walk. And it's really frustrating me. And I've never counted myself as a brave person. I hate roller coasters. And I was the only one out of my friends not to do a bungee jump. So in that respect, I'm not a brave person in terms of I'm not an adrenaline junkie. But there's just absolutely no way I'm going to comply with this. And it's really... even on the news now, whether it's on the public forum on the news, whether it's neighbours you're talking to or family members, it's becoming abundantly clear now where their loyalties lie. And that is a massive advantage to us all moving forward, because we've all got friends that we love dearly and you always want to see the best in people. But actually, you need to know where you're resonating and where they're resonating, because otherwise the relationship is built on a false bias and nothing good can come out of that, really.
Well, yeah. And to me, as saddening, I guess is the word, to see people's true colors, I always have to catch myself and figure out, oh, thank God I know this now, as opposed to when I'm on the firing wall, right? Expecting my buddy to save me. And then I see the true colors, but it's too last minute. So maybe for the audience members too, think about it that way. You've lost, and you and I have talked about this in the last year, we've mourned the loss of so many people, friends, family, and all this in this last year because of all of this. In some cases, they come back and we have a renewed, even stronger connection. But in some cases, we just realized that these people were never our people to begin with, our tribe to begin with. And it's good to make that distinction early, especially when you're in this war. You want to have the right soldiers, have your back. The experiment you were talking about is the Milgram experiment.
Oh, well done. You're so cool at finding these things. Yeah.
The Milgram experiment, an obedience to authority figures, was a series of social psychology experiments conducted by Yale University psychologist Stanley Milgram. The experiment found, unexpectedly, that a very high portion of subjects would fully obey the instructions, albeit reluctantly, of course, to shock the other participant. So that was absolutely fascinating. Let me bring that link down so you guys can go and read that experiment also. Hold on. That was fascinating. Now, you mentioned something in your show with Cliff High. Let me just go back here. So hopefully, for the audience here, finding the true colors and the people around them, hopefully they can get to the place where they see that as a positive right now, because we're all going to be set to rebuild here very soon. And you want to also rebuild with the right people, with the right frequencies, and with the right partners. So this is a part of that rebuilding process, is to make sure that the people you're going to rebuild with are actually your tribe as well. I know it's hard. It's hard for me personally. It's hard for Catherine also. But it's just, it just needs to happen. This is the initiation process we are in. Now, in your interview, let me bring this one back up here with Cliff. You had mentioned, I believe in your notes before the show, you guys didn't really get into it, I think, during the show, but he wanted to talk about opportunities for entrepreneurs moving into this new world. I think that's how he had advertised it on his show before you guys recorded. And I think you guys ran out of time a little bit. And I was excited to have that conversation, because I've been in this mindset for a couple of months to realize, well, wait a second, what's 2022 going to look like if indeed we're still seeing these numbers unfold like they're unfolding now, all of these sudden problems in the mainstream, and all of these people maybe exiting stage left. What are we going to do, the people who are awake and who can plan and who have that entrepreneurial spirit? Because we're just going to be called here to enter what Cliff calls sci-fi world. And in the last year, I've been thinking about that. And I just recalled, I was brought back to childhood. As a kid, I always wanted to build stuff, like, Legos, and I wanted to build stuff. And even going into high school and university, I was thinking, oh, I'm going to have a career in manufacturing. But even in high school at that point, everything in the news was, oh, we're devolving this, or we're outsourcing this to China or to Asia. And I soon realized that me going into manufacturing would not probably occur, but it was so strongly ingrained in me. And now I'm looking at everything that's happened. I'm like, oh, actually, maybe that dream is going to come true, because it inevitably here with our supply chain issues and the way we're redesigning the world, we are going to have to come back here to local manufacturing. How that ends up, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? On having the opportunities and the foresight to see, okay, what's in store for us in 2022, and where do all these entrepreneurs kind of put their mindset to pre-position themselves to jump the gate here into this new sci-fi world? Have you put thoughts to this yourself? What are your dreams like?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've always been very entrepreneurial. I've had loads of different careers, and now I can see why they've led me to this state. But I think there's two sort of levels for that, and Cliff touched on this a bit in our interview. So you've got one in terms of the doing. Do you want to go out and do something different, which we'll talk about in a minute, and then you've got the investing in terms of looking at which industries are going to be really needed, and if people are into investing in those early and making an absolute killing. So what I think first of all, let's talk about it on an individual level.
Okay.
I think the opportunities are absolutely amazing. Now, taking aside the Nasawa Jazara side of things and whether that happens or whether it doesn't, if you actually look what's going to happen, we know there's going to be a complete, whatever happens, a complete reboot of the medical, of the healing, of the health, of the financial, of the education, of the political, of everything. So there is a huge opportunity for those of us who are involved in these sort of conversations. I 100% believe are going to be the people that are shaping the new future. And there is no limit to what each person can get involved in. We are seeing people step up to the mark now that have had you've only got to look at what Ricardo Bossi is doing in Australia. Absolutely phenomenal man. Now, he had no political aspirations at all, but he's got to the stage and saying, I can do a better job than this. I'm not going to let this happen. Enough is enough. I'm going to do it. And sometimes pure will is getting him a lot further than any sort of opposition or someone has been before. So I think everyone on here is really sort of getting a very good understanding of where their passions are and where their expertise are. And the beauty is we've all got different passions and different expertise. And the world really is our oyster now to sort of literally stop trying to fix what's broken and create what we want to see going forward. And you and I, just by having this conversation, are a perfect example of this, because I never, if someone had said to me 2 years ago that I'd be doing this, I'd have laughed, because it was never a planned thing. But when you take those opportunities with passion and run with them, it's amazing what you can do and how many people step up to the plate to help you out. And then there's the other people, which Cliff was particularly talking about, where when you start looking, the people who know what we know in terms of all these systems that have already crumbled, they might not be announced on mainstream that they've crumbled, but we know they have. If you're the type of person who's an investor, then you are going to be investing in local manufacturing and new ways of growing food, of organic farming, or whatever the new biodynamic, whatever it might be, of different healing modalities, natural healing modalities, taking away from the pharmaceuticals. All of these things are possible, and people can start doing them now. Because when you take that inspired action, you'd be amazed at what sort of opens up. And the other thing I would say is, do not worry about the how. If you've got a dream and you've got a vision, just start taking some steps. It's an old cliche, but don't sit there and worry about having to do an old-fashioned business plan. That's gone. Those days are gone. Now we want people that are responsive and can really sort of literally make it up as they go along.
Yeah. I'm going to share something. I wasn't sure I was going to share it, but I'm like, okay, so I'm going to share it. When I watched this interview with you, first of all, when I saw him talk about the fact that he was going to have this interview with you and some of the topics, it got me thinking again about this. And I'm like you, I'm so busy right now that I need sometimes to just step back and think, because I'm a big thinker. Yes, I'm doing things. I'm an Aries. I move mountains all the time, but sometimes I just need to think, right? And this time, as I was thinking of all of this, and I was thinking of the manufacturing process, it got me thinking of, let me bring up this movie, Schindler's List.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a movie that hit me like a ton of bricks. This is in 1993. I was a young lad at the time, but it really hit me, and I never really understood why up until very recently. In Schindler's List, when you step back from the process here, yes, there's the war, there's the persecution of a certain group of people, and here he recreates this manufacturing process during war, and he's trying to give jobs to all these people who are persecuted in order to save their lives, right? And that to me was absolutely, I didn't know, again, why it was talking to me in 1993, just like I didn't know why my dreams were telling me as a kid this was in my field of view. I was like, well, it can't be. Manufacturing is out there somewhere in China. It's not coming back to Canada anytime soon. And when I was thinking about it the other day, I'm like, oh my God, I'm kind of doing the Schindler's List part right now. I'm bringing the persecuted, Catherine and many others here on my show, and we're trying to manufacture abundance for everyone and trying to find a way so that we, the persecuted ones, can continue to live under these wartime scenarios that we're in now. Anyways, I was having this conversation with Sarah, and I was, again, very emotional, because when I watched this show, I was very emotional as a kid, not understanding why. And now as I'm looking at it now, I'm like, oh, wow. Same thing with Who's Got Talent. I'm trying to do the exact same thing here. The people who are applying to come on Who's Got Talent, they're people who think like us, right? That's why I asked, like, show how you match the energy and the frequency of the Beyond Mystic audience. Well, of course, these are the same people who right now don't fit anywhere else. Like, if you saw all the applications here, well, I just lost my job, I'm doing this now, I'm aligning with healing people, or I'm aligning with creating these products to help people. Like, they're completely changing their lives right now because the old one doesn't have them anymore. There's no room for them in the old world. So anyways, I've been like, I guess emotional is the way to say it in the last couple of days, just thinking about this. And then I'm like, okay, well, this is one version of it, but what's it going to be in 2022? And maybe that's why I was dreaming a lot of weird dreams in this weekend too, because I think I was talking to a lot of the audience, and the audience was talking to me in my dreams also. We're trying to calibrate what that is going to look like in 2022 for the people here who, of course, Schindler was trying to protect. Like, what are your thoughts as I'm sharing all this with you guys? And you also in the chat, let us know what you guys feel about this movie and the times we're in right now.
Well, it's funny. I've spoken loads of times that I'm not a movie person, but this one, I can't even look at the title without crying. You know, it was so powerful, and it literally gives me goosebumps just when you're talking about it, because this is exactly in the times. I can't remember. I think I was speaking to Mark about it, Mark Atwood. And it's something you and I have both spoken to Bryce a lot, and I'm sure we'll be speaking later about. Yeah. When you're challenged, whether you're a plant, so plants produce the best essential oils when they're in a state of stress. So if you want the best quality lavender essential oil, you harvest the lavender from highest up the mountain, where the growing conditions are the hardest. And so they're pumping all the essential oils, are basically the plant's immune system. The immune system is working on full drive. And humans, we are in a time of stress at the moment. We're in a time of challenge. We've got a lot of pressures on us, different ones that we haven't encountered necessarily before. And therefore, we are finding creativity in ourselves that we've never known. And I think I said to you last time, the clients that are coming me to work with are literally off the scale at the moment. I must just say, I saw Jenna saying about that you've lost your cat in the chat. I'm so sorry to hear that, Jenna, because I know what companions they are. But I think what you've hit on is a really important point. A lot of the best inventions and the biggest leaps forward have been made in the most challenging situations. So what people have discovered over the last year, and we're keeping discovering, is we're discovering things about ourselves, everyone on this chat, that we didn't even know we had. We didn't know we were necessarily the rebellious ones. Some of us knew we were black sheep of the family. Some of us didn't. And what you've just said is so, so important, because we are going back to completely different ways of doing things. We are going to be growing more local food. We are going to be doing more manufacturing close to home. We are going to be looking at the way we manage our finances, our education system, the way we have the whole family environment, I think is going to be completely re-looked at moving forward because of the lessons we've learned during this time. Who do we really trust to take advice from? How do we free up that time in our lives? Even what does the working week look like? I mean, you and I, I'm sure, have come from ridiculously long working weeks and still are, but we're doing something we're really passionate about now rather than doing something for someone else that we might not be.
Yeah.
So I think people looking at that and thinking, my God, you know, he couldn't have done that in advance. And then the most horrific situation was thrown on them, and he on the hoof came up with a solution that not only massively changed his lives and brought all the best out of them, but changed hundreds of thousands of people's lives. When you look at all the knock-on effect of how many people are on this planet now that wouldn't have been had he not done that. So
I'm getting shivers as you're saying
I
that.
just got shivers as soon as you brought that up. I mean,
Wow.
I watched what was the one with Daniel Craig? Not a surprise, I watched it with Daniel Craig, the one with him in the woods.
Oh yeah.
Oh, what's it called?
I'll bring it up.
It will come to me in a minute.
Yeah.
And I've seen that 2 or 3 times. And every time I see it, I see different things. And what I loved watching it this last time, once I'd got over just looking at Daniel
Defiance.
Defiance again. And that absolutely brilliant film. And looking at all the different personalities and how the brothers were all so different, but they all contributed in such an amazing way.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what I want people to understand. We don't need to be like each other. We need to be ourselves and share our gifts with the world.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully these sort of communities are really giving people the confidence to do it. It's so, so important. And I would just say, just start doing something.
Mm-hmm.
Because we have got to rebuild our world. I really truly believe that.
Yeah, me too. And I think it starts right now by creating this community, like building it together, strengthening it together, letting everyone know that they're not alone. I think that was the big part of this year, finding each other. And I think this is why also some of the systems here want to disperse us, because when we do find each other, we're very powerful together. You just mentioned the effect that Schindler had on the whole planet, really, when you think of the ramifications and the knockoff effects of everything he did. It's absolutely fascinating. So yeah, where's your part? I'm speaking to the audience. Where are you? Like, what are you going to be doing to contribute to this world that you want to create? Like, are you the next Schindler's List also? What are you doing to help other people who are in the same situation as you? Because here's the thing. I did this video on BitChute. I never put it on YouTube because there were some issues with some of the wordings I put up there. But I talked about these battlefield promotions. Well, we're all getting these battlefield promotions now in a very rapid fire type of way. Yes, we're still at war. It's not really advertised as such yet, although some, as Cliff suggests, argue that it might be closer than later here in terms of the mass of the population understanding what's really, really happening here. So that's going to shift the narrative quite a bit, but it's also going to shift the focus of your responsibility, you watching the show, and Catherine and I and my responsibility as well, because suddenly we're going to be responsible for a lot more people, and we need to be ready for that. And this is where Catherine, you and I, our frequencies match often, because we hit this wall and we realize how big what we're doing actually is, right? Because in some express, it's just a YouTube channel. Well, it's a lot more than just a YouTube channel. There's a lot of responsibility. And my mom, I had talked to her about all of this a lot of times. And she's like, Jean-Claude, you're killing yourself. You're doing 3-4 shows a day sometimes. And why do you do that? I'm like, well, when am I going to do these shows? after the war's over.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's now. It's right now. Like, this is the time. And and again, too, I'm very emotional because in that movie, he gets like what not word's not psychotic, but he gets obsessive about every single person he can hire in his manufacturing because he can save another life, and he's finding every other way to the point of ruining himself in the movie here to save one more life. And so I'm like, okay, that's the frequency of the people who are in front of you, and I'm asking you, the audience, how much of that frequency is in you right now and what you can do to help the people around you. Because again, we're the cavalry we're waiting for. Yes, there's white hats working behind the scene. There is this devolution team that's been there, but they are only as powerful as we are in terms of us being able to move forward. Also, we're moving the needle, and they're kind of responding to us moving the needle, I think, is what's happening right now. So if we're waiting for them to move the needle first, not going to happen. We need to be out here first. Maybe we can finish on that. We have about 5 or 10 minutes left here. Catherine, what are your thoughts on exactly that? Waiting for the cavalry, which we know is behind the scenes doing things, or making us the cavalry, our friends and families, and our tribe, the cavalry, and taking those steps as if there were no other cavalry? What would you say to that?
I think it's both. I don't think it's ever waiting. The one thing, I don't think it is ever waiting, but I think you need everyone at all levels. And, you know, just like I've used the analogy before, if you've got a football team, there's no point having the best strikers in the world if you've got no defenders.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know why I've got an echo now suddenly. But I think we've got to appreciate that I see my role, for example, as to give people the confidence to speak their truth, and to be resilient when you get loads of family, loads of friends, loads of ridicule for you. But I would never forgive myself if I didn't keep spreading my truth. But I've got to work harder at not feeling responsible when people don't listen, because obviously it's heart-wrenching for all of us, particularly when we're talking about our family members. But I also respect the fact that they've got their own lives to lead. But my role, I know, is if I see something and I'm confident in it. So I've always been, for the last 20 years plus, a real advocate of natural health. And I've spent years and years spreading the natural remedies, natural healing, light healing, sound healing. But my real passion is the message the animals can give us, because it's been well known, and a lot of people have said, is how you treat your animals and how you treat your children is a very good reflection of where you are as a civilization. There's lots of people speaking up on behalf of the children who can do so far more eloquently than me. But where I've got such passion and such knowledge is understanding that being a voice for the unheard, and when you're a voice for the animals, it's just like being a voice for the children, or the voice for everyone here who doesn't feel that they can make a difference. And what I think I'm really, really good at is showing that the simplest things really do transform lives. So, you know, I've spent a lot of time and energy sort of really looking at diet, nutrition, natural remedies, CDS, you know, various other ways that you can make money by supporting good companies and things, and giving people a whole range of options. So something resonates, interviewing people on my channels who've got amazing other suggestions and other things that they can do. So what I see my role as personally, which is I think what you're asking, is making sure that, one, you know, if I can do it, anyone can do it. I'm quite a very honest and blunt person. So when I'm having a bad day, I tell people I'm having a bad day, and I wear my heart on my sleeve. So my emotions are very, you know, if I'm happy, I'm happy. If I'm angry, I'm angry. But also never give up, because if you transform, you know, it's like they're saying, I'm very into helping rescue animals. Even if you save one rescue animal, you've changed the world for that animal.
Yeah.
No effort is too small. Just do something. And when you pour your effort, I'm absolute, I know this works because I've seen it for years. I've been working for this, is when you're having a hard time yourself, the best way to help yourself is to help someone else. And I don't mind whether that's a plant, an animal, or a human. But when you put your attention on helping something else, everything in your life changes for the better.
That's really good, because a few people are asking, okay, Jean-Claude, we're with you. What can we do? Catherine just said it right there. I love it. That's absolutely amazing. Beth says, wow, that is the perfect message, JC. Love you and Catherine. Thank you so much, Beth. Appreciate that too. And I was asking you, Catherine, I was trying to lead you into the last point you had given me before the show. It was all about personal accountability.
Yeah.
Maybe we can dive into it here. Just take a little quick sidebar. What did you mean by that in the context, of course, of what we've just talked about now? We're moving into this new era. We're going through this huge transformation. And yes, there are other people helping us, but the personal accountability part is really, really high on our list, and perhaps not high enough for some people still who are watching the show, who might still be in the fear frequency, or for whatever reason, the personal accountability is not as high as it should be in their lives. What can we tell them to encourage to maybe crank that up a notch just a little bit more?
Well, I'll take it back to the Kaylee McEnany thing in terms of I can share the information with you, but I can't understand it with you for you. And I would also say I can't do it for you. So I think the single most important thing that every single one of us, and I have to remind myself this as well on a daily basis, is taking responsibility for how I am living my life on a day-to-day basis. If I'm miserable, everyone on this channel understands about energy and frequencies. So what frequency am I putting out there that I want the tuning fork to balance to? I don't want people balancing down to my low negative energy. So I take self-responsibility for when I get bad news, like my friend's member of their family. What am I going to do to not stay there in that low vibration and low frequency? What can I do to help her family? What can I do to realize that there's loads of other people who are feeling like this? So if I feed myself good nutrition, if I get out in nature, if I meditate, if I choose to engage with people that uplift me rather than bring my energy down, all these simple things that we can do, it doesn't have to be something major, then I am putting out into the universe. And what I'm seeing is it comes back to what we started talking about. If people are going to spend their valuable energy writing something negative about someone else, then that to me is not taking personal responsibility. I'm not saying you're not allowed to have that thoughts. I'm not saying you're not allowed to have an opinion, but where are you spending your time? Where are your thoughts staying? And therefore what frequency are you putting out to the universe? And when we're aware of that, and when you've got good friends around you that will call you up on your shit as well, excuse my swearing, I think I've developed Tourette's tonight, but it's really important to have good people around you that say, come on, kick yourself out of it, do something positive, go and help your neighbor, go and do whatever it might be. Send a positive message to someone. If you're walking in the street and, you know, like in the UK, everyone's gone back to wearing these, take yours off and smile and say, it's okay, you don't have to. Do something positive, however small. And I think it's really, really important to just think, how am I behaving and conducting myself?
And you know, there's 2,000 people in the live chat now between both our simulcasts, and many more thousands in the next couple of days will watch this. If each and every one of them did one little thing more than they would normally have done before watching the show to help somebody else, imagine the effect and the knock-on effect of those people then who were helped, maybe having more energy to help somebody else. That's what these shows are all about. Man, Catherine, we're already out of time. Okay, I can't wait for this roundtable this afternoon with you, Bryce, and Nadina. That will be amazing. In the meantime, let the audience know here, you've made some changes to the booking systems between the Academy Live and this website. Explain to the audience where you're at now with these structural changes.
People wanting to book a consult with me, there's a consult tab on there, and they can go in and pick a booking slot, pay for it. They then get an email to fill out a consult form. So it's much more automated, and then I'll send them a Zoom link. And I've got one very, very exciting announcement. Andrea, my friend who just volunteered to start working with me, and now we're doing a lot of stuff together because we love working together. We have got a fantastic range of merchandise coming out to spread some positivity. Anyone who knows me, and I have been mocked for it, I love wearing inspirational clothing because, again, it's putting that energy out there. And we've had lots of requests for it. So we're hoping within the next week that will be up and running on that site as well, to just put some love and positivity out there.
So will this be on the health and products page or a different shop?
No, it'll be on here, and there'll be a new tab showing merchandise, and it would just be some fun things. We've had a lot of requests for it, and it's something that makes us happy, and so the choice is there if it wants to make other people happy as well.
Awesome.
We will go around wearing big messages across ourselves, then we'll change the world one person at a time.
That's great. Somebody was sending me a T-shirt. I forget who it was in the chat the other day. I think it says "absurd together" or something like that. Of course, they're referencing Janine and I in our French vocabulary. At any rate, that's really cool. Hey guys, if you can support Catherine here, please do so on her PayPal tip jar link. Let me bring that in the live stream for you guys as well. The link is also directly on the front page of her website as well. So you can help her, support her in creating all of this amazing new content for you guys. And you can find her work also here on YouTube at Catherine Edwards. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. And also, if you're watching on Catherine's show now, please come over to Beyond Mystic 3, our third backup channel here. We're at 51,000 strong and growing again, rebuilding that community. Thank you so much, everyone. And yeah, please remember to like, share, and subscribe, and join us tonight for the live stream with Janine at 8 o'clock. And tomorrow, actually, this is going to be cool. Bryce and Janine at 4 p.m. Eastern, and tomorrow night, of course, Tamara is back with Janine. So quite a bit here of really cool information for you guys as well. So please come and join us for that. This was Life is But a Dream with Catherine Edwards. I'm Jean-Claude BeyondMystic. I love you guys. Have a great day, and we'll see you soon. Au revoir.